Okay, let's do few examples based on checking if two events are independent or not. So let's get back to our very first example, that is rolling a tetrahedral dice twice. So if you are directly coming to this lecture, let me explain what's the experiment is. So we have a tetrahedral dice, that means for that dice we have the four sided dice, right, and we are rolling it twice. So this is the outcome of the first roll and this is the outcome of the second roll. And if we look at the sample space, we will have 16 such possible outcome, right, and in question we have given that each outcome is equally likely. So probability of each outcome is 1 upon 16. Okay, now we have understood the question. Now the question is asking about the two event, if these two event A and B are independent. So the event A is first roll is 1 and event B is the sum of the two rolls is of 5, right? So from the definition of independence of two event, what we know, if this event A and this event B is independent, then probability of occurrence of this event A and B is equal to the product of their individual probability if A and B event are independent. First of all, we need to find this probability and we need to find the individual probability of each event. Now let's first focus on this joint probability, that probability of event A and B. So what's the event A? Event A is first roll is 1. So if we just consider this first event and if we look at the sample space, then first roll is 1, that means these will favor to the event A, because if you look at the first roll, in every element is 1, right? So this will favor to event A, but at the same time we need to consider this event B. So and we are looking that occurrence of both the event, right, at the same time. We are looking at the intersection of event A and B. Sum of the two roll is 5. So sum of the two roll, if you consider sum of the two roll is 5, if you consider individually event B, then these are the event, or these are the elements that will favor the event B, right? But we need to find the occurrence of event A and B, that means this is the only element that will favor event A and B together, right? So what's the probability that we will get 1 comma 4, right? On the first roll we will have this 1 and on the second roll we will have this 4. So probability of A and B will be 1 divided by 16, right? And probability of this A event A is occurrence of the first roll, on the first roll you should get 1, right? So that is the 4 favorable out of this 16, right? That is 1 divided by 4. Again we have the probability of this B event B, the sum of the two rolls would be 5. So 1 plus 4, 2 plus 3, 3 plus 2, 4 plus 1, and these are the 4 favorable out of 16. So now let's check this, if we are getting this probability of A and B is equals to the product of the individual probability. So if you check that is 1 divided by 16 and probability of A is 1 divided by 4 and also the probability of B is 1 divided by 4. So we are getting this probability of A is equals to probability of A into B. So what we can say about these two events, that yes, these two events are the independent event. Let's look at the one more question based on the same example. Based on the So based on the same experiment, let's look at this question B. So right now we have different event, and just we have to check that if these two events are independent. So event A is maximum of two roll is 2, and event B is the minimum of two roll is 2. So intuitively we can say that these two events are not independent, because minimum of two rolls tells you about the maximum. For example, if minimum of two roll is 2, then maximum cannot be 1, right? अगर मैंने ये बोल दिया कि minimum of two roll is 2, then that means indirectly I am saying about the maximum, that maximum cannot be 1, right? And to be precise, we can also look at how we can see that these two events are not independent. So let's look at this first of all, probability of these two events A and B, occurrence of these two event A and B. So occurrence of these two event A and B, that means what? So event A is maximum of the two roll is 2. That means if I am considering one of the roll is 2, then here we cannot have value that is greater than 2. Or if we consider the second roll as 2, then here we cannot have the value that is greater than 2. That means we are left with here 1, or maybe 2 and 2, right? Similarly, here we are left with 1 or 2 or 2. So 2 or 2 we have already considered. That means these are the elements that is favoring the event A. Now let's look at this event B. So event B is minimum of the two roll is 2. So if minimum is 2, right, then here whatever the element we will have will be either 2 or greater than 2. So here we can have 2. So 2 has to be there, because one of the element that अगर 2 होगा तभी तो मिनिमम हम 2 उसमें से निकाल सकेंगे, राइट? दैट मीन्स कि 2 तो यहाँ पे होगा, अगर इसको मिनिमम होना है तो इधर वाले जितने एलिमेंट्स होंगे वो 2 से बड़ा होगा, राइट? सो 2 3 और 2 4. सिमिलरली 2 जो है इस पोजीशन पे भी हो सकता है, तो वी कैन हैव 2 2, बट 2 2 वी हैव ऑलरेडी कंसिडर्ड. हियर वी कैन हैव 3, and also we can here have 2 and here 4, right? So these are the elements that are favoring the event B. So साथ साथ कौन फेवर करेगा, क्योंकि A और B को देखना है मुझे, दोनों इवेंट को कौन फेवर करेगा साथ साथ. हियर what we are finding is the joint probability, right? So just look at the intersection between these two events. So if you look at the intersection between these two events, what you will get is these two elements that are in this. So what we have to find is the probability of occurrence of this element, that is 1 divided by 16. And if we look at the individual probability, that is probability of A is 3 divided by 16, and probability of this event B is how many? We have 5 divided by 16. So if you check from the definition of the independence of two event, that is probability of the joint event is equal to probability of A individual in multiplication of the individual probabilities. So that is 1 divided by 16, and it is not equal to 3 divided by 16 times this 5 divided by 16, right? So event A and B are not independent, they are dependent event.